I'm James, 32, and for most of my adult life, I've been the dependable sibling. You know the one, always there to help move furniture, always picking up the check when mom accidentally forgets her wallet, always called when the printer breaks or when someone needs to borrow a car. I never really minded. I had a good job in project management, lived modestly, and figured if I could help my family, why wouldn't I? That logic didn't prepare me for my sister, Caroline's, wedding. Caroline is 29, the golden child of the family. She has this way of making herself the center of any room, loud laugh, perfect makeup, endless stream of compliments for strangers that somehow sound like subtle digs. Growing up, I always felt like the supporting cast in her spotlight. But again, I never really minded. We were different. I was quiet, practical. She was loud, spontaneous. It worked, until it didn't. The wedding planning started 6 months ago, and from the beginning, it was chaos. Caroline had champagne tastes and a boxed wine budget. The kind of person who says, "Oh, I saw this on Pinterest," and then tries to recreate a $40,000 floral arch with grocery store flowers and masking tape. I stayed out of it at first. But when mom called me one night, panic in her voice, saying they needed someone just to help with the deposits, I caved. The first $2,000 was for the venue. Then $1,200 for catering. Then $900 for custom invitations. Before I knew it, I had transferred over $13,000 in payments, all from my account, all under my name, because Caroline's new business was still in the growth phase. And our parents' retirement fund had mysteriously evaporated into backyard renovations and emergency cruises. Caroline always promised she'd pay me back as soon as the Etsy shop takes off, which is rich, considering she's sold exactly 3 tie-dyed yoga mats since she launched it in January. Still, I didn't complain. I figured, it's family. That was until the wedding invitations went out. I found out I wasn't invited when my coworker Rachel mentioned receiving one. Rachel, a woman Caroline had met exactly once, for 15 minutes, when I brought her as my plus one to a family brunch. I laughed at first, thinking it was a mix-up. Maybe my invitation got lost in the mail? Maybe they were planning something special? So I called mom. Her voice was tight when she picked up. "James, honey, we just figured you'd be too busy to come. You're always working, right?" I was stunned. Not angry, yet just genuinely confused. Too busy to come to my own sister's wedding? I paid for half of it. There was a pause. Then she said something that would replay in my head for weeks. "It's Caroline's day. We didn't want any tension." I didn't even know how to respond to that. I wasn't the one causing tension. I hadn't even raised my voice about the money, the disorganization, or the dozen times Caroline pushed meetings onto my calendar to help her brainstorm reception themes. I hung up, silent. Then, 2 days later, it got worse. I opened the family group chat, one that I had mostly muted because it was filled with 94% Caroline selfies and 6% passive-aggressive reminders from mom, and saw a new message from Caroline. A photo of her holding her wedding dress, captioned, "Can't believe it's almost here." Underneath, a text followed, "Let's be real, it's better without his vibe anyway." I stared at it for a long time. No one responded to it. Not mom, not dad, not my cousin Nate, who I knew owed me $300. No one said a word. I don't even think they realized I'd seen it. That was the moment the numbness cracked. I wasn't hurt. I was done. I didn't reply. I didn't call. Instead, I pulled out a folder I kept in my desk drawer, copies of every payment I'd made, every invoice in my name, every contract that still had my signature as the guarantor. I didn't even realize how deep in I was until I saw it all laid out. A $13,500 wedding I'd helped bankroll, a photographer contract I'd co-signed, a catering deposit that was under my business account because they couldn't get approved. That night, I poured myself a drink and sat down with my laptop. I didn't touch the group chat. I didn't say a word to Caroline. I just opened my banking app and froze the pending transfer for the remaining $3,000 catering balance. Then I called the vendors, one by one, with a calm, detached tone I didn't know I had in me. "Hi. Yes, this is James. I'm the primary on the agreement. I'd like to cancel the reservation due to a breach of agreement." The florist hesitated but agreed. The band seemed relieved. The tent rental guy was sympathetic, said something about family always expecting too much. I didn't need validation, but hearing that made something in my chest unclench. It was the sign that pushed me into my final act. The night before the wedding, I drove by the venue. I'd been there for the planning meetings, another thing they conveniently forgot to thank me for. The welcome sign was already up. Caroline and Mason. Forever begins today. It was surrounded by fairy lights and flowers. I parked across the street, walked over with my hood up, and carefully peeled the corner of the wooden welcome sign up just enough to press one small sticky note onto the back. Just one sentence. Fund it yourself. Then I walked away. By the time I got back home, my phone had begun lighting up. First, it was Mom's 6 missed calls. Then Caroline. What did you do? Then a text from the venue manager, confused why the tent hadn't arrived. I didn't answer any of them. I just closed my laptop, turned off my ringer, and finally, got a full night's sleep. But that was only the beginning. The next morning, I made pancakes. That probably sounds strange, but there was something therapeutic about it. I hadn't cooked a real breakfast for myself in weeks. Too many late nights spent fixing Caroline's vendor spreadsheets. Too many early mornings getting dragged into emergency planning calls. That morning, I let the butter brown a little too long, sipped my coffee slowly, and watched the sun come up without a single obligation breathing down my neck. By 10:17 a.m., my phone had 42 missed calls. Caroline was the first to crack. She called me 3 times, then left a voicemail that I'll never delete. Her voice started syrupy sweet, like she was trying to pretend everything was normal, but halfway through, she snapped. James, hey, there's some kind of issue with the catering? And the sound system guy said the deposit bounced? I don't know what's going on, but this is my wedding day. Can you just fix it? A pause. Then the voice changed. I know you're mad, but this is really selfish. You're ruining it for everyone just because you didn't get invited. Grow up. It's not always about you. She hung up without waiting for a reply. I didn't bother calling back. Instead, I watched the clock tick. Noon. That was around the time the first guests would be arriving at the venue. By 12:30, I got a text from Rachel, the coworker I'd mentioned, the one who somehow got an invite when I didn't. Hey, are you here? Everyone's kind of standing around. There's no music? No food. I think something's wrong. I replied with just 3 words. Not my problem. At 1:03 p.m., the dam broke. Mom texted first. Her message was less words, more emotional damage. What did you do? Do you have any idea what this day means to your sister? Yes, I did. I knew exactly what it meant to her. A performance. A spotlight. A day to feed her ego while she trampled over everyone who'd helped her get there. The wedding wasn't a celebration of love. It was a marketing opportunity for her influencer fantasy. And I'd bankrolled the dress rehearsal for long enough. The next few texts were a frantic montage of digital shouting. The florist says they're not coming. Did you cancel the DJ too? Mason's family is furious. Everyone's asking questions. Where are you? I turned off my phone. I already knew how this would play out. Caroline would cry, maybe even fake faint. Mom would blame me, not once acknowledging the fact that they deliberately excluded me. Dad, if he even showed up, he tends to disappear when things get heated, would make some vague, let's not assign blame right now, type of speech while sipping his 4th gin and tonic. And Mason? I didn't care about Mason. He once told me NFTs were the future of healthcare. He'd be fine. But I had one last move. You see, in the chaos of planning, and Caroline being, well, Caroline, she hadn't realized something important. The venue itself was under my name. Not hers. Not our parents'. Mine. Because when the deposit needed to be submitted, and her credit card declined, the venue manager had asked for someone more stable. I'd been dumb enough to say yes at the time. Now, I saw it as insurance. At 1:47 p.m., I called the venue manager. Hi, Angela. It's James. A long pause. Oh, I was wondering when you'd call. I just wanted to confirm that the contract's canceled. There's no event today. Another pause. I could hear the murmur of voices behind her, like she'd stepped away from a crowd. I thought the event planner said everything was still happening. I kept my voice even. There is no planner. There is no event. It's in writing. You'll be receiving a revised termination form by this evening. Until then, please ask all staff to pause operations. She hesitated. James, they're already here. There's like 100 guests walking around. Then I suggest you ask Caroline how she plans to pay for all of it. Because the card on file isn't mine anymore. I hung up. After that, I packed a weekend bag, grabbed my keys, and drove 2 hours up the coast to a quiet little Airbnb I'd rented the night before. It had an ocean view, blackout curtains, and a stocked kitchen. No wedding drama. No entitled texts. Just me. At some point that afternoon, while I was sipping a beer on the balcony, I checked my email out of pure curiosity. There were already 3 messages forwarded from the venue manager, all with the same subject line. Urgent. Outstanding balance. By sunset, someone, probably Mason's dad, had tried calling from a blocked number. Then, finally, at 7:08 p.m., I got a message from my cousin Nate. Dude, what happened? She's losing her mind. People brought gifts, and there's no dinner. No music. She just screamed at the wedding cake guy, and he walked out. Then, a follow-up. I think someone just threw up in the bushes. I smiled. Not out of cruelty. Not because I wanted the day to fall apart for no reason. But because for the first time in years, I wasn't the background character cleaning up everyone else's mess. I wasn't the wallet. I wasn't the pushover. I was the guy who finally said, enough. And just when I thought the chaos had peaked, someone knocked on my Airbnb door. It was almost 8 p.m. by then. The sky had gone that deep navy blue you only get near the coast, and the waves outside my window crashed with rhythmic calm. I just finished heating up some leftover pasta and was halfway through pouring myself a second glass of wine when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 times. Not loud. Not angry. But insistent. Like someone who wanted to seem composed, but couldn't quite hide the edge of desperation. I froze. There was no way. No one, not even my closest friends, knew I was here. I hadn't posted, hadn't told anyone. I booked the Airbnb under a nickname I sometimes use for privacy. But that knock was real. And the silence after it? Louder than any scream. For a moment, I considered not answering. Let whoever it was stand out there and stew in the consequences of whatever brought them this far. But curiosity got the better of me. I walked slowly to the door and peered through the peephole. Caroline. Her makeup was still on, but smudged, the kind of smudge you get from crying in public and trying to fix it in the reflection of a locked car window. Her once perfectly styled hair was pinned haphazardly behind her ears, and her white reception dress, because of course she had a second outfit planned, was wrinkled, the hem streaked with what looked like mud or maybe spilled champagne. She looked like a ghost of the woman who'd spammed our family group chat with vision board screenshots for 6 months. I opened the door, but only halfway. She blinked at me like she didn't believe I was real. You're really here? I didn't move. How'd you find me? I asked Rachel. Of course. Rachel had been kind enough to ask if I was coming the day before. I told her I wasn't. Told her I needed some quiet. Apparently, she thought she was doing the right thing by giving Caroline my location. I didn't blame her. Not really. Caroline looked past me, into the Airbnb, then back at me. Can I come in? No, she blinked again, taken aback. Caroline wasn't used to being denied. She was used to manipulating her way into what she wanted, always with a laugh, a fake apology, or a crocodile tear. But I just stood there, unmoved. She crossed her arms and shifted her weight to one foot. Look, I know you're mad. You think. But this is my wedding, James. Do you have any idea what you did? People flew in. The whole thing was falling apart, and I didn't know what was happening. The florist just didn't show up. The DJ said he got a cancellation call but wouldn't refund us. And the caterer said the contract was canceled and, God, it was like sabotage. I leaned against the doorframe. Calm. Quiet. You mean it felt like someone pulled the plug on everything you didn't pay for? Her jaw tightened. Don't be dramatic. I almost laughed. Don't be dramatic, from the woman who'd once faked a fainting spell because someone wore a similar dress to hers at a graduation party. Instead, I said nothing. She huffed. You could have just talked to me. Instead, you blindsided me. You ruined my wedding. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? So I was supposed to fund it, organize half of it, get left off the guest list, then keep smiling through it. You were never supposed to find out, she blurted. That stunned me. Her eyes went wide, realizing what she said. But it was too late. You knew I wasn't invited? I asked, voice low now. You knew, and you didn't stop it? Caroline backpedaled instantly. It was Mom's idea. She thought it'd just cause drama if you were there. You always make things tense. Tense. I cut in. You mean I make things tense by not letting you walk all over me? Or by not faking a smile when I'm insulted in the family group chat? That landed. Her shoulders sagged a little. She looked out toward the ocean. I wanted the day to be perfect. You mean curated? Silence stretched between us, the air thick with everything she wouldn't say. She'd always wanted her life to look like something out of a magazine. Every moment staged, every photo ready to post. The problem was she saw people, family, as props in that fantasy. I spent 13.5 grand, Caroline, I finally said. Money I didn't owe, time I didn't have, energy I'll never get back. And I didn't even ask for credit. Just a seat. One seat. Caroline swallowed hard, and for a second, I saw something unfamiliar flicker across her face. Regret. Maybe. Or shame. But it was gone just as quickly. I'll pay you back, she said weakly. I gave her a look that must have said everything. We both knew she couldn't. Not now. Maybe not ever. And that wasn't even the point. I don't want your money, I said. I want distance. That hit her harder than anything else. Her mouth opened slightly, like she was about to protest, but no sound came out. I let the silence sit. Finally, she took a step back. So that's it? You're cutting me off. I'm not cutting you off. I'm just done holding you up. Then I shut the door. Softly. No drama. No slam. Just finality. I stood there for a long moment, hands still on the knob, listening to the quiet. No footsteps. No knock. Just the ocean, rolling outside like none of this had ever happened. She didn't knock again. I waited maybe 2 minutes after I closed the door, just standing there, heart beating fast, not from regret, but from release. You spend years keeping the peace, brushing off insults, swallowing disrespect, and you forget what it feels like to set a boundary and hold it. That door was more than a slab of wood. It was the first time in my life I told my sister no and meant it. I watched through the blinds as she stood in the driveway. Her arms were crossed now, her head down, pacing in a little circle like she was deciding whether to come back and try again. She didn't. After a minute, she got in a silver SUV, Mason's dad's car. I recognized it, and drove off. No screeching tires. No dramatic exit. Just a slow, defeated departure down the coast road. I went back inside, poured myself the wine I'd abandoned, and collapsed on the couch. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. But freedom, as I learned quickly, doesn't always come quietly. That night, I turned my phone back on. Not because I wanted to talk to anyone, but because I wanted to see the extent of the damage. What I found was a digital avalanche of blame, guilt, and spin. Mom had messaged 10 times in a row. Each one more pointed than the last. You humiliated your sister. This will scar her for life. You've embarrassed the family. If your father's blood pressure spikes again, that's on you. Do you even care about anyone but yourself? I rolled my eyes. Then I checked Facebook. Caroline had posted a carefully filtered black and white photo of her and Mason, cropped to hide the empty reception tent and the fact that half the guests had left early. The caption read, "Sometimes, plans fall apart, but love always wins. Thank you to the friends and family who supported us today. To those who didn't, we see you too." The comments were exactly what you'd expect. "So sorry, babe. You looked stunning. Can't believe someone would sabotage such a beautiful day. Some people are just bitter. Let the haters hate. You still got the ring, queen." It was clear she was trying to control the narrative. I was the villain now. The bitter, jealous older brother who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Who bailed last minute and left everyone stranded. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I spent the next week quietly gathering receipts. Email threads. Bank statements. Screenshots of every deposit. Vendor contracts with my name and signature. The canceled transfer confirmations. Even the text from Caroline saying it was better without my vibe. I compiled everything into a PDF, title, The Real Story, and let it sit on my desktop. I wasn't planning to post it. I didn't need to win the internet. But I wasn't about to let my name get dragged through the mud either. Then I got a call from my dad. We hadn't spoken much in years. He was the kind of man who believed silence was wisdom and apathy was strength. But that day, he called, and I answered. His voice was tired. Not angry. Just tired. "Son, can we talk?" I didn't say no. We met at a local diner, neutral territory. He looked older than I remembered. Thinner. Like the years of playing referee between my mother and Caroline had drained the life out of him. We sat at a corner booth. He didn't even open the menu. "I won't pretend to understand what happened," he said. "But your mother is upset. Caroline's a mess. This thing, it's tearing the family apart." I sipped my coffee. It was already torn. I just stopped patching it up. He sighed. "Your sister said you ruined the wedding." I handed him a flash drive across the table. "Here, that's every invoice I paid. Every contract I signed. Every service I canceled after I saw I wasn't invited." He didn't reach for it. Just stared at it like it was a live grenade. I added, And you know what the worst part is? I didn't even want recognition. I just wanted to be treated like family, like a person, not a tool. He finally looked up, and for once, there was no defense in his eyes, just weariness. You're not wrong. But it's going to take time to fix. I nodded. That's assuming I even want to. He didn't argue. Just took the flash drive, nodded once, and left. 2 days later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then I got a voicemail. It was Mason. Hey, man. I know we don't know each other well, but I just wanted to say. I didn't know she'd cut you from the invite list. I thought you just didn't show. I would have said something if I'd known. Honestly. I'm sorry. We're still dealing with the mess. Some vendors are threatening legal action. Her dad's furious. I don't know, man. Yeah, sorry. I didn't call him back, but I appreciated it. Slightly. Later that night, I got a message from Rachel. So, I heard the real story. That was legendary. Everyone's whispering about it at work. Someone even called it Weddinggate. I laughed. First time I had in days. The whispers continued. Apparently, one of the caterers posted a vague tweet about clients canceling last minute after treating their own family like garbage. It went mildly viral. A few people pieced things together. Caroline tried to delete her Facebook post. By the following week, she'd gone quiet online. Then Mom called. I didn't answer. Then she emailed. A long, rambling wall of text about family being complicated and everyone making mistakes, and how could you let your sister suffer like that? That's when I decided to respond. Not with anger. Not with spite. Just clarity. I wrote. For years, I gave without asking for anything. I paid bills, solved problems, and showed up when no one else did. And in return, I was excluded from the one event I helped make possible. That's not family. That's exploitation. You want to mend things? Start by taking responsibility. Until then, I'm out. I hit send. Blocked her number. Blocked Caroline's. Changed the password to the family Netflix account just for the symbolism of it. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've moved to a new city. Smaller place. Quieter. Started freelancing instead of grinding out 60-hour work weeks. Took a vacation. Alone. For the first time in my life, I'm building things for me. Caroline still owes money to 3 vendors. The wedding photographer kept the photos until they finished payment, which they didn't. So Caroline's only wedding picture is that smudged Instagram post with the guilt trip caption. Word got around the extended family. A few of them reached out to say they had no idea. I believed some of them. Others, not so much. As for my parents, they haven't visited, haven't apologized. That's fine. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. Sometimes, people don't realize the value of what you give until you stop giving it. And sometimes, walking away isn't the dramatic act of vengeance they imagine. It's just a quiet return to peace. And trust me, peace is the best revenge there is.